Hey guys, you're listening to the PetaPixel Podcast, where we talk about all the latest news in the photographic industry and more. But if you're looking for expert advice, incredible selection, and the best deals on photographic equipment, video, lighting, and more, you go to B&H. B&H is PetaPixel's new gear partner. And for even greater savings at B&H, we recommend the B&H Payboo credit card, which lets you save the tax. You pay the tax, and B&H pays you back instantly. Save the tax on all eligible purchases shipped to eligible states. Or you can pay over time with our 6 and 12-month financing on minimum purchases of $199 for 6 months or $599 for 12 months. Terms apply. Learn more at bhphoto.com/Payboo. Credit card offers are always subject to credit approval. Payboo credit card accounts are issued by Comenity Capital Bank.
Hot damn, after nearly a month, I'm back in my office recording a PetaPixel podcast. This is sweet. I'm here with my buddy Chris Nichols. I got my other buddy, Jaron Schneider.
Hi.
And I'm Jordan Drake. And it is smartphone season beginning. It's gonna happen here for the next little while. And first out the gate is the new Google Pixel 11 series, including the Pro, which we are working on a review of right now. But before we do that, we wanted to talk to Isaac Reynolds from the Google team there, who works specifically on the cameras, who was surprisingly candid for someone who works for a big company, which is something that we always love to see. He's been a great guest in the past. He's back, and we've got bad news, primarily. We got some news stories there.
I tried to organize
It's
these.
Mostly bad. We do the feel-good story of the week at the end of everyone. I just want to set you guys up. Like, there's going to be a stretch here. It's going to be dark. So
I started with the bad news, and I tried to end with somewhat better news.
I see what you're doing, Jaron. Okay. But I want to open with a high before we get there. So before we kick things off with the news, what's something good happening in your life right now? This is not like a what have you been up to or something like that. What's something good? Something that you were like, oh, that was pretty sweet. I'm glad that happened to me.
Oh.
Anything?
As we reach deep into our minds.
Yeah.
I know. And then you're like, when's the last time I thought about anything good happening?
It's not an equation.
I know.
Something that made you smile.
It says something about modern society nowadays where it's very hard to think about something good. That says something to the human condition that we all exist in now. But we were just camping in Salmon Arm in BC as families. We had a great time. But something good that happened from that, other than the nice memories, I was walking around a bookstore there in Salmon Arm, and it's an old, used bookstore, and I found a bunch of, Louis L'Amour Western novels. And I'm like, this is such an old school thing.
Louis L'Amour.
I've never read these things. I know he's this huge prolific Western writer, and it's all from the 60s and 70s and stuff. I do like Westerns. I'm like, you know what? I've never bought these things. They're $3. I bought myself a few Louis L'Amour novels, and I'm reading them, and I'm actually enjoying it so far.
Which ones?
So it's what did I get? I got Flint, I got Callaghan, and I got something else. I don't remember what. I was looking for Hondo. I couldn't find it.
I highly recommend The Walking Drum.
There you go, right? Lonesome God's supposed to be cool. I mean, anyways, I know he made 1,000 novels, and that might not even be an exaggeration, but I do like Westerns. I like that sort of man with no name, sort of pseudo samurai kind of story. So I'm enjoying them. They're easy to read. They're simple. They're fun, but it's bringing me pleasure. So far, so good.
I will say The Walking Drum is not set in the American West like most of his books. It's set in the Middle Ages, 12th century Europe. So it's a different type of story. Anyway, The Walking Drum. I have at least 2 copies of The Walking Drum, actually.
Dang.
Because I had to read it for school, and then I think I got a better version, a nicer one to put actually in the library. So there you go.
There you go.
Something good I like traveling to Japan. I was recently in Japan. That was very fun.
That was weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago. My sleep schedule is back to normal. I feel good about that. That's quite nice. My dahlia are blooming prolifically. That's nice. I'm starting to harvest tomatoes. My potatoes are almost ready to harvest. The leaves are dying down. So maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be able to harvest potatoes, which is going to be nice. I went to the Japanese garden here in Portland last
For the first
weekend.
time.
No, I go there. I'm a member. I go there all the time.
For the first time of this week. Yeah.
But I went to the shop there because I like the shop. I always stop in to see what they got. And I saw a really nice traditional chime, like a Japanese chime, like a little bell. Mm-hmm. This one was a cast iron. And my wife actually, without me saying anything, suggested I buy one. And so I have one now. And you never really know how windy your area is until you put a chime out. Turns out,
what's that damn noise?
it's pretty breezy in my front yard. I may have to find a different hook and hang it lower to the ground.
Those metal kids are on my yard again. I need to chase them away.
They are. It dings a lot, but I do like it. I just think it needs to maybe 50% less ding. But there you go, Jordan.
What's
There's
good in your life,
thoughts.
Jordan?
So ramen is a struggle in Calgary. As Chris is very aware, if you want good ramen, you're
There's
lining
one
up
place.
for hours. Yep.
There's only one place. If you suggest there's another, I don't believe you.
Okay. So I've had some fairly mid ramen from a place near my house, but I have discovered, Liam wanted to go there, my son, and I got the Tantaman ramen. Is that the pronunciation?
Tantamen? Yeah.
Tantamen?
Yeah.
It was excellent. It was I would say teetering on Japan quality. So I have found ramen that's really good that I don't have to line up for. And that is a life-changing development for me.
Was
for
it spicy?
$16, 16 Canadian dollars for a good
And it's
bowl of
nearby
ramen.
you?
Not bad at all. Yeah, it's just by the, Chris, it's by the new hospital. In that cool new strip by the Leos there that just got opened up.
Oh, you're talking about that Lila ramen?
Laya
ramen? I had it.
Yeah.
It was good. It's different. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd put
You
it
got to
up
try
there
the
with...
Tantaman.
He
doesn't like Tantan
ramen. Yeah, Tantan, I don't
typically
like it. Oh, it
it's
was
because
good.
it has the ground meat in there that goes in
Yeah.
the soup. And Chris and I both aren't huge fans
want
of trying
pieces
to
of meat, but
fish around.
I
For
will
the meat.
say...
It's like a creamy, spicy sauce in it, though. I liked it. It was thick.
The sauce is nice. I did try their stuff. They put an interesting sort of a bit of a Chinese twist and flair on ramen, but it was good. It was good. But it's still not Japanese ramen. There's only one
No,
place in Calgary.
we're
that
not in
Shikemen.
Japan.
Yeah, that's the only place you can do it. But I'm glad you enjoyed that.
All right, let's start the show.
All right, we're gonna take a second here to thank PetaPixel members for supporting us directly.
The best.
We really appreciate you. And if you're not a member,
The worst.
Well, I was going to say, let me entice you with a reason to become a
Let
member.
me insult you.
Yeah, don't listen to Jordan. You are not the worst. You are, in fact, great, but you
best.
could be better. You could be the best if you were a member. And here's the thing. $3 a month or $30 a year, you support what we do. But we aren't just going to ask you to just give us your support. We wanted to give you something in return. And over the past 6 to 8 months, I have been working very, very hard to make the membership feel like a unbelievable deal. Because I really want you guys to get something out of it. So we now have 8 discounts that you can get when you're a
Crazy.
member with us. I'm not done adding them. I'm working on adding more. But here are the 8 we have right now. You get 20% off a 12-month all-in-one subscription to Capture One. Already, big deal. That already covers the cost of your membership right there. Then, you regularly, as much as you want, get 5% off used camera gear at KEH. Great. At Moment, you get $15 off just to spend at the store. $15 coupon. There you go. Then, you also get 10% off orders from FJ Westcott. That's who makes the lighting that is currently lighting Jordan. Chris, is it currently lighting you?
Yeah, always.
Great. Next, you get 20% off any software from DxO. Another gigantic bargain. Next, you also get 10% off any Viltrox product sold through their official Amazon storefront. So it's not just lenses. Viltrox makes a bunch of other stuff. I actually personally use their little HDMI monitor. Great monitor. It's probably on their Amazon storefront. Next, you get 10% off any of Blue Moon Camera and Machine's Photolab services. Now, even if you don't live in Portland where they're based, you can mail your film into them and they can get it scanned and or printed. That includes drum scanning, by the way. 10% off that.
That would be thousands of dollars for Jaron, saved right there, out of the tens of thousands of dollars he spends monthly at Blue Moon.
Wow, it's a bit of an exaggeration. It's hundreds. It's hundreds I spend there. But I will say, this was not just one I added for me. This was actually requested from a current member. They said, hey, could you talk to Blue Moon? And I did, and they were totally down with it. So I did. Lastly, you get 33% off an annual subscription to the Atmos for Weather and Photo app. That'll help you plan your photo shoots if you go outside. So that is eight perks, in addition to removing ads from PetaPixel.com. So you don't see banner ads. You just see the content. There you go. I think
to the average household of photographers, that probably equates to $46,533 a year USD. Something, I don't know. Hey, your mileage will vary. Maybe it's more or less than that, but it's around that. Like, yeah, man, crazy deal.
So again, $3 a month or $30 a year to support what we do and get rewarded with an absurd number of discounts. So there you go. Link in the description below. We encourage you to become a member today. Thank you so much for those who already are. You guys are the best. Those of you that are great could also be the best if you join and become a member. All right, let's get to the news. We're going to start, as Jordan said, with basically bad news the whole way down. Well, the first one's not bad news. The first one's actually kind of cool.
It's interesting.
This is the one that I like most of you have probably clicked on this podcast to hear. Did Apple spoil an upcoming Nikon camera? Probably. So Apple has a ProRes and ProRes RAW authorized product page that you can visit at any time. And it was discovered that there was a camera listed on there that was hastily removed not long after this was discovered. A Nikon Z70. That's not a camera that exists. And for those of you who are like, well, maybe they mistyped Z7. Well, the Z7 doesn't have ProRes or ProRes RAW support. Neither does
Z7 as well.
Z7
no internal
II.
RAW.
So there you go. A Z70 is probably a thing.
What can we infer from the model number? Go, Chris.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but I mean, when you think about Nikon and you think about 70, you think about the venerable Nikon D70, a camera that I used to own, which was positioned as sort of a like enthusiast, prosumer DSLR at the time. It was fairly entry level. So yeah, if we go by that line of thought, then maybe Nikon is trying to make a sort of prosumerish mirrorless camera. I mean, the Z7 is kind of, we don't know if it's going to be left in the wayside or who knows, or if this is going to replace it. But the Z50, now the Z70, the Z30, Z50, Z70. Maybe this will be
APS-C.
I find
this will be double digits APS-C, single digits full frame. Very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. So, yeah.
And you also have to consider that this list is ProRes and ProRes RAW capable. So it's probably not going to be what the D70 was. It'll probably be a little more capable than that.
You wouldn't put raw video in a super basic camera. Wouldn't make any sense at all.
This is very exciting. I personally,
it is exciting.
I think APS-C is fantastic. Since I shoot Fujifilm, I'm a big APS-C
Despite what we all might think, it turns out Apple is human after all and makes mistakes.
The other thing there is, like, we got to say, Chris, you're talking about the D70. Back in the DSLR days, there was a lot of great APS-C glass in the Nikon lineup. So if they are planning to do something a little more serious in that, they're going to have to get glass to back it up.
Or they could just release this camera and continue not to support the APS-C lens lineup and
let third parties
see what happens to this thing. I sure hope they do. I sure hope I'm wrong.
It does stink that the Z mount doesn't have like Sigma support, because then there's plenty of APS-C options there.
But you do get Tamron.
Does? It does?
Yeah. Although,
are you sure?
Now that
those primes are in Z.
Are they? Okay. I
believe
thought
some, yeah.
they
I'm
weren't.
Googling. You guys
I mean,
talk
now
about
that Nikon
other
lost
stuff.
its lawsuit against their companies
Viltrox,
using its lens
yeah.
mount, gates are open, bud. Everybody's going to make lenses for this camera now.
At least in China. By the way, on that note, while I'm buying Jordan more time as he types, on that note, I am almost done with the script for a video I'm working on that topic. I did
The panoramic one was very cool.
I talked to a patent lawyer about
Oh, dang.
patents.
Z and
Jordan's
RF
doing
mount.
that.
Okay, so I was wrong.
Oh,
okay,
RF.
that's great. Fantastic.
I just realized I've got my glass of pink lemonade here because I'm a pink lemonade kind of guy, but I'm breaking the rules of reality TV because you can see in the glass, and now it's going to change the chronological order of our entire episode. But that's okay. That's okay. Something. to
oh
pay
yeah,
attention to.
I thought it was clear we already interviewed Isaac before
good.
this, so it's fine.
Good. It's still breaking the fourth wall.
Anyway, there you go. We don't know anything else about this Nikon camera, but that was interesting.
Very
nonetheless. Yeah.
Oopsie.
All right. Let's get on to the actual bad news. We're going to start with Fujifilm, basically just the only one who went ahead and said it. All the camera manufacturers kind of danced around it. Fujifilm straight up said it. The memory crisis has made its way to cameras. And it's not just your memory cards. It's the processors that power everything also need RAM. And that RAM got way more expensive and more difficult to acquire. And Fujifilm had to adjust its business to account for a significantly higher investment in getting parts just to make the bodies. That's bad.
Yep.
So before you comment, I guess the one thing to mention is we did get a price increase here in North America that was around Trump's tariffs, which were ruled illegal. So anyone hoping to see those prices come down, unfortunately, it looks as though those probably won't, because Fujifilm would have likely needed to raise their prices anyway to account for the cost of memory increasing. So that price is probably going to be the price for a while. We're also seeing that they're in some European markets, pricing is going to go up again, just because they can't afford to sell the cameras for less than it costs them to make them.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Anything to add, Jordan?
Yeah, every time you're thinking of like generating a bad AI poster, just remember you're making camera prices go up, you dummy. I'm sorry, I've been really mean to our listeners today. I'm going to rein that in. You're all awesome. Sorry.
Well, not if you're AI generating posters to raise the cost of cameras. I don't know.
But if you are an AI generated viewer, Jordan wants you to burn in hell.
Absolutely. No, they have no souls. They can't burn anywhere.
Oh, good
Just
point.
unplug them.
Hey, what else might make pricing go up and might be bad for companies, Jaron,
Well,
in the photo industry?
I don't know.
It's China's slowing economy, Jaron.
That's not going to make prices go up. It's just going to mean that camera companies can't sell as many of them as they were hoping. So yeah, that's the other side of this. Is we looked at all of the sales figures, the investor reports from all of the companies, and there was a pretty common thread with all of them, and that is that they sold way fewer products to China than they originally anticipated. Mm-hmm. So last year, 2 years ago, maybe late 2024 into 2025, China was actually becoming the number one region for camera sales for a lot of these brands. That kind of fell off by the end of 2025. And the North America was once again the number one region. That's bad because camera manufacturers were relying on those projections into China to cover whatever their sales projections were going to be. So this year, when they came out and said how'd they do, well, most of them did not hit their numbers, and they all effectively said, well, because China stopped buying.
Yeah.
So that's not great. Just because these companies need to move product in order to continue to innovate and sell new stuff, and that is not happening at the level they were hoping.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating thing moving forward is we might start to see less like major investments in R&D and things like that give us exciting new products. We might see some more minor updates or just cameras not being updated for the next few years while they deal with sales decreasing. And less exciting product means sales will continue to decrease and everything will spiral.
Yeah, I guess the one that's tied to this, as Chris was saying, is if you can't sell as many of what you currently have, and the cost of making those things is also increasing, that puts a lot of financial pressure on these camera brands. They're just
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's to let people go. Slow R&D, slow production. Who knows?
Probably another thing to build on what you said, Jordan. It's probably fair to assume that you'll get rather than brand new cameras, iterative versions or slight offshoots of the same thing, just to try and appeal to a slightly different market, just to try and move more units that doesn't cost the company a ton of money.
The OMification, I like to call it.
Yeah, OM System is a great example of a company that has been selling the same 2 cameras to you for the last 5 years in different bodies. So that's not going to be an only OM thing, I don't think.
But surely
these guys are terrible.
Couldn't get worse, right?
These guys are just not having fun talking about bad news. You gotta have some takes on the news.
I found some ramen I like that was affordable. Carry on.
So a couple weeks ago, was it even last week? May have been last week. We were talking about Tamron was entertaining an offer from Sony to buy them out. They may have more incentive to do so. Looking at their financial numbers, they made way fewer lenses for other camera brands than they had in previous years. So remember how we were talking last year and the year before, they're building lenses that would be sold as a first party brand for somebody else. Nikon's the best example.
Nikon is the best example.
I think it was
but there's
maybe
others.
Yes, that we don't know of. We just know that Nikon for sure. There was it was high 40s, and then it went even higher 40s to almost low 50s, as I recall. 50% of their business was making this stuff. Yeah, that collapsed this year. They made a lot fewer of those.
Down to 38%, I believe, or
that's
20. Yeah.
That's a large fall from where they were, especially considering they were on an upward trend. So why do you guys think that is? Why did manufacturers stop asking Tamron to make their lenses for them?
Well, I think a big part of it, you mentioned the most notorious example is the trio of Nikon branded lenses there. And when Tamron brought out their G2s of all of those lenses, I said on Z mounts, who would buy the Nikon branded ones anymore? Tamron's updated their previous formulas to better ones for the same amount of money. So if that was a huge part of their OEM, which I suspect it was at first when there were not many budget, semi-pro lenses in Z mount, I bet those things sold really well. But now that you can just go grab a G2 Tamron for the same price, why wouldn't you do that? Which means that their Tamron branded lenses are now selling better proportionally. So their OEMs are going to drop simultaneously. Mm-hmm. But it's the other mounts where there's more questions. It's less obvious which ones are actually Tamron lenses. I know there's a lot of speculation about that new slow Sony zoom potentially being Tamron, because it definitely has some of those aesthetics and controls that remind us of those.
Yeah, that would make sense too. That makes sense too if they have a tight partnership and share a lot of R&D, that Sony might be well, let's just buy them.
Yeah.
Of course, there's other issues too. DSLR lens sales continue to plummet because people just aren't shooting them like they used to. So that makes sense. That has dropped significantly. But on the plus side, if we need a little bit of a silver lining, Tamron did
Please, God.
Yeah, Tamron has recently, we just reviewed their lens where they updated the 12-20 with this new look, right? It's exciting lens formula, new design. Hopefully this is something going forward. They're going to change their branding. If Sony does purchase them, that might have positive ramifications as far as what lenses come out and how fast. But Tamron is trying to make steps to increase its own sales, and so that hopefully is and that seems to be holding true. They are doing well as far as selling their own brand of lenses, so hopefully that'll continue on an upward trend for them.
Some notes here based on this last story we talked about. Tamron experienced a quote sharp decline in sales to China in fiscal year 2025. 26% of Tamron sales were in China. So far this year, that number is just 14%.
Wow.
Good God.
So China just stopped buying.
Yeah, nearly half. That's nuts.
Their economy is not doing great. It's very expensive to live in the cities where the jobs are, and that is causing a contraction in consumer spending. So it's hurting what I think people see as not necessary purchases, Like people are just happy with what they've got, or they just don't have the money to spend on something new. And it's definitely making itself known in the camera market, which stinks.
You got some more bad news?
One last thing I want to say about Tamron, and I'm prepared to tell them this to their faces soon. They promised how many new lenses to us this year? They said 10, right?
10.
Okay. We're well past the halfway point now of the year. We've actually gotten 2. But I can see where they would argue that we've gotten 7. So like we got that new lens you guys just mentioned, the 12-20. We got that in 2 mounts, right? Or just one? Just two. Then we got the one from earlier this year,
35-100.
We got that
in
2. So now we're up to 4 new lenses. And then we also got the 17-70. That was added to 2 more mounts. So they also consider that a new lens. So
6.
Tamron's vision, they've done 6 lenses, I believe. No, you've done 2. And I'm tired of pretending that you've done 6. And we're not going to accept that moving forward, because I can see from a business perspective why they would say that. But like from a realism, living in the actual world, no, you have not. And so like we're gonna approach the reporting on X number of new lenses very critically from them, because they're the only ones who are doing this. And I refuse to stand for it. That's not
They
acceptable.
could just drop an APS-C lens, and those are made available in X, Z, RF, and E, and that would fill their whole quota for the year.
Yeah, that's what's probably going to happen. And I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it anymore.
Hey, on a
though,
positive note,
10.
On a positive note, I looked ahead, and the next 2 stories are actually not bad news. So that's nice.
No,
that's nice.
I told you I was ending on good. This first one's for you, Chris. Light Lens Lab is doing something different. They are not copying remaking a previously difficult to find lens. They're doing something unique. They are making their own.
Yes, this is very cool. So yeah, for those that might not know, Light Lens Lab is famous now. They've built their brand on finding very rare but also very expensive formulas that already exist, remaking them very faithfully. I really like the products. I like the results they've got, but they've always been about character and weird flair and strange bokeh, things like that. And so now this is exciting. They're making 35 millimeter f2s. Nobody's perfect. They're apochromatic, okay? But it's their new lens formulas that they're making on their own. That being said, they're still making these to look very similar to classic Leica M series lenses. They're going to do an aluminum titanium variant, very similar. They're going to do black paint, silver chrome finishes, but they're going to basically look like existing M series 35 millimeter f2s. So, okay, fair enough. But it's neat that they're saying like, this is design. We're making our own thing. We're doing our own spherical elements. And hopefully we'll see them start to make some more novel lens designs going forward. But I think they're still going to play it very close to home and keep any future lenses very, in air quotes, Leica appropriate, for design, shape, function, that kind of thing. I don't think they're going to deviate from a design aesthetic in a very big way.
They're very ambitious right now, because we've already said, like, we're working on film, they're teasing cameras, they're making completely novel lens designs. Like, they're definitely a company to watch in the next few years.
Sure.
It seems like Viltrox has gone in a very modern direction. They look like they're trying to be the major player if you're looking for a more vintage experience. And I think that's a very smart move for them.
Yeah.
Just as a bit of knowledge, that lens, that 35 f2 you mentioned, that is a $2,100 lens. So it is not meant to be like cheapo, affordable. No. It's still like a high-end lens.
But it's still way more affordable than a Leica. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, all their lenses have been, but like these ones are still expensive. Like, it's not when you just go out and pick one up.
Yeah.
Like
what's a 35 f2 spherical going for from Leica these days? Let me check that too.
More.
And it is a good point though too. It's like and this, everybody has different business strategies. A lot of Chinese companies are trying to make very affordable lenses, very affordable options and alternatives, which is a cool method. Light Lens Lab has always tried to kind of make their lenses more premium. They still are far more affordable than the original rarities, which makes sense. But they're not cheap lenses. Like, they are making very high quality precision optics. So yeah,
$9,500 US for like a 35 f2 spherical.
Sure.
Sounds like Lightlens Lab is more affordable.
Yep.
By like a lot. Like you could probably buy a series of 3 of these for less. I think that's probably what they're going for. Next story, Jordan. This is I was like, boy, this is interesting. This is sort of along the lines of Tamron updating firmware to change the close focusing distance. Blackmagic has updated the Cinema Camera 6K. To remind you, that camera was launched in September of 2023. It now has phase detection, autofocus, and object tracking.
Yeah, and it's really funny. When this camera was first announced, they said, like, also this sensor is capable of phase detection autofocus, not available at launch. Like, this is something we were aware could happen at some point. And then we all forgot about it. And here we are. I just very briefly, what does everyone think of the aesthetics of the suit? It's kind of like the pseudo pocket series of Blackmagic cameras.
They're hideous.
The ugliest damn cameras you can find.
This camera is just straight up ugly. You know what? It actually kind of looks like Samsung's not DSLRs, mirrorless cameras or whatever they had. I don't remember if they were, but this is Samsung-esque but uglier.
They look a little Canon-y to me, but they messed up the prism, right? Like the top housing is just strange and flat, and the EVF is weird and whatever. But hey,
heinous cameras. I mean, the quality is definitely there, like being able to just shoot B-RAW that'll, if you're on Resolve, this is an affordable way to get a pretty usable image. And yeah, having phase detect autofocus, they've had it on some of their other models, their latest ones. And I haven't tested a Blackmagic camera in a while, but word is, it's not Sony, it's not Panasonic, but it is certainly usable. Let's say it's above Fujifilm video, below the big three. I think that's probably a fair assessment to make. But talking head stuff, you could film yourself. Wedding shooters might work for you.
So knowing that, Jordan, so that's what I want to talk about here. This thing it launched at $2,600. Then it actually fell to a very low $1,575 at one point. Yeah. Like that was a great deal.
That's when people were really asking us to review it, is when that price plummeted.
Yeah.
Right now, it costs $2,989.
Yeah.
That's more expensive than the A7 IV, the R6 II, the Z6 III, and the S1 IIe.
Yeah.
Would you pick this over any of those?
I mean, if I have a raw workflow and I'm in Resolve, like that's really the entire appeal of this thing, is it is the cheapest way to get direct raw video in with a full frame sensor. But in every other usability regard, then no, like an A7 V, man, I'd snap that thing up so fast compared to the S1 IIe, or underrated camera, frankly, I dare say. So yeah, I mean, this thing is for Resolve users who need RAW. Other than that, you should be looking at other models that are not the most embarrassing looking abominations currently on the market.
Yeah, for what it's worth, it is an L-mount camera. So like, I guess it's that if you wanted to compare it directly to another L-mount camera, it would be the S1 IIe or the S1 II.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like the S1 series is just better in every way. I don't know why you would pick this. I don't know. Can't you shoot RAW on an S1?
An S1 II, yeah, you can do internal RAW on that, ProRes RAW. It's not going to play as nice in DaVinci.
Oh no, as nice. Shoot.
But the camera's infinitely better.
Yeah. There you go. All right, last thing I want to mention here is this is going to be announced after we record this, but before we publish it. We're getting a new Insta360 camera called the X6. I'm sure it's not handy right now, Jordan, but you do have one. That, I guess we can talk about it later when we get more into it, but the X6, they sort of changed their marketing a little bit, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. 360 video is like it just didn't end up being the thing. It's like 3D TV. It didn't really go where I think some of the companies hoped. So with the X6, Insta360 is sort of changing how they're approaching it. They're saying this is as good as 3 cameras: a 360 camera, a gimbal camera, or an action camera. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that sort of positioning. They're also saying it has an effective in quotes, 1 inch
Yeah.
type 1 sensor. But it's 2 smaller sensors on either side of that.
Yeah, they're just looking at surface area on this thing. I mean, they've been dabbling with this for a while, but the form factor just didn't make a lot of sense as a gimbal camera or as an action camera. Now it certainly does. So, it was just such a top-heavy, weird design in order to use it for that kind of work. Now, I mean, the gimbal thing, yeah, if you're cranking the shutter speeds on a 360 camera, you have unlimited reframing options. So it's going to be super stable. It has to require a fast shutter speed. That's the only way to do that digitally. There's a little drawback there. The action cam thing, you are absolutely going to be able to use it this way. It's going to be easier to mount up and stuff. But as Jaron just said, you're throwing away half of your surfacing or your imaging area in order to do that. It's only going to work pointed in one direction, and action cameras have upped their sensor size. So this is still going to underperform in that regard. So what it's still going to do better than other stuff is be a 360 camera, which, as we've discovered, is a pretty limited appeal because you're cropping your image dramatically. Even if you just look at how much of it's recording what's directly underneath and above the camera, that's a huge amount of what you're actually capturing that's barely ever going to be utilized. So once you start cropping that into a field of view that's useful, the resolution is, you can say 8K as much as you want. It's going to be below, in a lot of cases, 1080p by the time you crop that into a usable image. And that's always going to be the Achilles heel of these 360 cameras, which is why I don't use them.
Yeah. All right. I might make you take some footage and look at it and see if you have that opinion still. Probably not going to do a full review, but we'll talk about it some more on the podcast going forward.
Okay.
All right. That is the news. Let's we'll go back in time to when Chris had a full glass of lemonade and talk to Isaac Reynolds from Google, who's on their Pixel camera team. And we grill him with our hardest questions we've ever grilled.
And he answered questions. Good job, Isaac.
All right, let's go to that now. And we're joined by Isaac Reynolds, I think this might be your third time on the podcast, Isaac. We're happy to have you here. He's from the Google Pixel team, and we're going to talk about Google's launch that happened this week. We've got lots of questions, but before we get to them, Isaac, why don't you give us your high-level overview, the stuff you think people should care about?
Well, certainly from the camera, the biggest upgrades are the new telephoto that's on the Pro models that gathers 30% more light. And if you've ever had a 30% more light upgrade, it's noticeable in all the details and all the shadows. And on the base phone, the regular Pixel 11 and the Fold, you'll get a main camera that's new with 56% more light gathering. So big upgrades in the light. All of that powers some of the best features, I think, for just regular people taking pictures and video creators, which are the new Creator Suite to just help you get more higher quality content out to your channel faster. And the camera looks feature, which is more about making it look like your style and your personalized way you want your pictures to look in terms of color and contrast and even detail and noise. There's some other cool things. There's 30x zoom now on the base and the Fold phone, so you can zoom a little bit further. And there's also magic capture for the moments you don't want to be a professional photographer. You just want to take some great pictures of your kids and not be stuck behind the camera in that moment. And you can kind of let Gemini handle some of the work for you. But those are some of the things I'm most excited about.
Well, we've got a long list of questions here. I think the first ones are from Jordan. So why don't you start, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, right off the top. So the magic capture that we're doing now. So basically, it's just recording video and then pulling out, it's analyzing it, finding the best frames, and then saving those as separate files so you don't have to go through. What resolution are those photos actually going to be? Because that wasn't covered in the presentation. Are they 4K image size or even higher resolution than that?
Those are full 12 megapixel.
Wow.
And they're full denoise quality with our best imaging algorithms. And it's actually 4:3. It's full sensor field of view as well. So it's not actually from a video. That's kind of the simple way you might do this. What we wanted to offer was the ultimate quality with the timing. So no compromise. And that means we're not actually just plucking frames from a video. We're saving this incredibly high bit rate, high bit depth format, and we're processing that through all of our best software. So I wouldn't even say it's video frame extraction at all.
And how are those files saved? Can you do them as, are they just JPEGs or HEIF files?
The regular images are just JPEGs, the same as any other 12 megapixel JPEG you'll get in the camera.
Cool. One other thing I was really curious about is we're huge fans of night sight. I think that was maybe Pixel's biggest differentiator in the early days, is just how good the low light performance could be on that. And it's stacking a whole bunch of images in order to accomplish that. So if people haven't used it, you'd basically like, okay, we're doing night sight, you're holding it down, and it just stacks images until it gets an acceptable result. And then you have a very good low light image. But now they're claiming 4.5 times, up to 4.5 times faster on that. So the way I understand it, that means it's now getting around a quarter as much light. It's not stacking as many images when you do that. So how are you able to suddenly speed that whole process up and not sacrifice image quality?
Yeah. One of the advantages of working at a place like Google, where we have some of the frontier models and frontier technology, and is that all of this foundational research that's going into model development, some of it's targeting the new Gen AI stuff, fine. But a lot of that's just foundational. And so we learn better how to get bigger models that run more efficiently, where we can control the side effects and artifacts better. So it really is just better models, honestly. Yeah. And I know the claim is, up to 4.5, and that's certainly true. But the average is 3 times. The average is actually 3 times.
Wow.
So in your regular usage, on average, you're still going to notice a marked difference. Yeah. And we've done all the image quality reviews to make sure that quality is still right up there where it was before.
Very impressive. Why don't you go, Chris?
So I guess what I want to start with then, this has a new processor, right, Isaac? Tell us about what that's going to bring to the table. I know that Tensor processors, there's been a little bit of, people like, oh, they're maybe a little bit slow in comparison. So maybe tell us what this new G6 is going to bring.
Yeah. It's funny that people attribute some things to the processor. I think that really it's about owning the full vertical stack and being able to tune the software for the processor and the processor for the software. So yeah, when you run these little micro benchmarks, things look a little funky. But I'll give you a great example. Pro Zoom, that's an old model, is almost a 1.1 gigabyte model. Instant Night Sight is a fairly large model. It's still 100 megabytes. These models, early on, they ran in something like 30 to 40 seconds on device. But once you really target the Tensor G6's TPU, which has 50% more compute than last year, we get these things down to 2 seconds or 3 seconds. And that means you can do all the stuff on device. You don't have to send it to the cloud. You don't have to wait a long time. But you still get like that cutting edge quality that you'd expect from a modern model architecture. So honestly, it's the TPU that's making the difference.
I guess on that same note, while we're talking about things like Pro Zoom, so I know Pro Zoom was kind of a big thing on the last phone, and it was a big thing because when we reviewed it, we're like, wait a minute, we're getting 100 times zoom, but it's using AI generation to build those frames, right? To build those images. And in some cases it looked very accurate. It was quite convincing. Although you're like, the scroll I shot, maybe that's not the same scroll that I actually saw. It's just a very close representation of it. Who knows? But we certainly saw it with things like text, right? Where the phone can't identify what the text is, so it kind of creates it and builds it. It looks like hieroglyphics in some cases. Some of that stuff kind of, you're like, I could see how this is useful for the basic user, but it also drives people like us a little bit crazy. We're like, what's going on? This isn't the image. So what is Google's approach to technology like that? I know this is a broad question, but are you going to push the technology further? Are you going to go with longer zooms? And how can you refine that without having things like obvious errors in that way? Or is that even possible?
I mean, I think that you're right that feature is kind of designed for a certain use case and a certain user. What we see though is there is a huge amount of usage in between like 20x and 30x in particular, now that we've launched 100x, which is why it's so nice to have up to 30x now in the base and fold. But regardless, the key is like the transparency of what we're doing. Yes, we're going to use Gen AI in that particular case, in a particular zoom range sometimes to improve the quality there, but we're going to show you the before and after version. Okay. So you can compare for yourself and decide, does it look like hieroglyphics or does it look like the actual text? It all has C2PA, right? Whether it's an image captured with Gen AI or it wasn't, it has C2PA, content credentials, so you can tell where it came from. And you can simply turn the feature off. You can say, I don't want this feature, click the toggle, and then you don't have to think about it. So our approach in that particular item was you make the decision. You're the creator. You saw it with your own eyes. You look at the side by side and tell me what you think is right and what you think is authentic. And it's your decision, as the person who saw the scene. So we're not trying to force anything on you. And what we find is now a year later, people are really thoroughly engaging with it, and they're using Zoom a lot more. And they're sharing the ones that have been improved with AI. So it does seem to work in that particular case with that particular disclosure.
While we're talking about generative, sorry, Chris, if you had a follow up there.
That's okay. No, I was just wondering, is it going to go farther, or is it going? Is the zoom going up?
Yeah, there is on the Pro models. There is now Pro Zoom up to 120x, and that's because we have a better sensor in there. You get better data in to the model, then you get better data out of the model, and that allows us to go a little bit further. So there are those just improvements year on year with just better technology, better hardware.
So while we're talking about generative AI and the last couple of announcements, we have been talking about generative AI for a huge part of the launch. That was a major emphasis, where there's still quite a bit of talk about AI-based assistants, things like that on the latest model, but definitely less emphasis on generative AI. And I'm just curious, is that because that's just not part of the major feature suite that we're seeing on the latest model? Or is it just the backlash that we've seen to some of the generative AI stuff in recent years?
Our experience is with things like Pro Zoom, given the really good response and engagement from the actual end user, and with what I'm seeing in the kind of early feedback on Magic Capture from our internal testers, is people are just glad to have the problem solved. They're glad to have high resolution. They're glad not have to be stuck behind the camera. It happens to use a kind of model that you would call generative. But the reality is, once it's been sort of tuned and tested and thoroughly looked at and turned over, and we've measured and iterated, people kind of get what they wanted and expected, and the technology sort of blends under the hood. So I don't think it's a response to anything, except that we still want to solve these problems of zoom and low light and dynamic range and timing that have always been the problems in photography for decades, maybe even a century now. I don't know if we're at a century, we probably are. But it's the same problems, just new technologies, and people just want the problem solved. And so we don't care so much how it's solved as long as we're solving it for users in a way that they like.
So I've got some questions on user experience. So maybe that's a good jumping off point for that. So when smartphone image quality really started to improve about a decade-ish ago, we saw it nearly kill the point and shoot market. The point and shoot market used to be just massive. Everyone had multiple models. You could go to your local Circuit City and have your pick. You like that one, Jordan? Nice. You like that?
Yeah.
I miss buying CDs from Circuit City.
Yeah, DVDs, me too. Dedicated camera manufacturers basically, for a while there, abandoned the space entirely as users flocked to using smartphones for that same purpose. But now we're seeing new users, especially younger ones, and I'm looking mainly at Gen Z, the return to these dedicated point and shoot cameras, seeking out that more tactile, distraction-free photo experience, maybe just something that's not their phone. How do you think the Google Pixel lineup can encourage smartphone users to continue using their phones as a primary camera? And do you think there are ways for Google to capitalize on changing consumer preferences as it relates to physical experience? For example, the last time I saw Chris actually genuinely happy taking pictures with a smartphone was with the Xiaomi, the 17 Pro.
17.
Yeah, and that was mainly, and he says it admittedly, mainly because that grip they put on there made that a much better experience. So is Google ever considered that kind of thing? That was a lot of questions.
That's a lot. There's 3 questions in there. There's 3 questions in there. Okay. I think you're right that there was a time when people weren't buying smart point and shoots. It does seem to have risen from the dead, so to speak. Which, again, I don't think it's a backlash against any particular other product. I think it's just a demonstration that there was always a strong preference, especially among a dedicated set of users, photographers, creatives, to edit in their way and this is my style, and my Instagram page is all in my style. Maybe mine is ethereal, maybe mine is black and white, but it was yours. And that was always a small group. That group is growing. It's a much larger group than it used to be, who has a yearning for a different way of doing things. I think the resurgence of point and shoots is just a reflection that is a camera that looks super different than what you get from a smartphone. It's not that it's better or worse, it's just different. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, you have in the camera this year a feature called Camera Looks. There are, I want to say 6 or 10 different styles in that group that you can choose from. One of them is called Digi. Yes, we see the same thing that you do. But some of them are more like film emulations because, I agree with you that Gen Z is gravitating toward digicams, but a lot of my millennial friends are gravitating toward film. So everyone just wants something different.
Definitely not me gravitating towards film or anything. Yeah, I shoot film entirely now. Yeah.
So you'll get some stuff, we call it classic or editorial. That's much more stylized for like a film simulation. And then if you just want a slightly different look to leave on 24/7 all the time and never go back, then we also have what we're calling alternate HDR looks, which are specifically less HDR. Mm-hmm. They're called natural or shadows, which let the shadows stay a little darker. It's called, I'm forgetting the name. It's not velvet. That's a different one. But it lets the color stay a little warmer, the tone stay a little warmer. So depending on your range of what you're looking for, it'll do that for you too.
Before I make you answer the question about hardware, actually that brings up a good segue to another question I had following this one, which is based on an interview you did with The Verge, specifically David Amell, friend of the channel, a personal friend of mine. He talked to you about Google's playing with HDR technology to make photos in, as you mentioned, more like a digicam or a dedicated camera in some cases. There's a link in the podcast description. It's a gift link, so you can actually read that full interview with David Amell and Isaac here. But I kind of wanted you to give a high-level overview of what you're doing there and what makes this special.
Yeah, it was a really tricky way to build this because when you're building a camera for editors, like people who want to take their pictures and bring them into an editor and tweak all the sliders, you build photos in a certain way where you capture all the data and you kind of compress it into the shadows are a little brighter, the highlights are a little bit brought in, and you can reverse that if you want to in your editor. But the base file we give you has a lot of latitude, we would say. Mm-hmm. But when we built the looks, we wanted to be really aggressive, really opinionated. We wanted it. I mean, if we're going to make a film simulation, it's got to look like film, which means it's got film grain. We got to consider things like chroma noise. You don't think about film cameras as having color noise, but they really, really did. Or, we have to think about letting the highlights completely blow out. And once the highlight is pure white, you can't go into an editor and drag the slider back and magically put color back in. But that's what we wanted. We wanted it to look like, traditional photography. We wanted to go back a few decades. And so we did build it really early in the pipeline, early enough that we can really adjust the auto exposure, early enough that, it was way before sharpening was applied in the first place. Because you can't turn on the sharpening and then somehow turn it back down.
Back, yeah.
You can't do that. The only thing you can do is simply not sharpen in the first place, right? So if you really want minimal or you really want natural, which are two looks we offer, we just said it's not going to be sharpened in the first place.
That sounds really similar to, there are a couple apps available for iPhone, for example, that were released within the last year, where they effectively were we're not letting the phone do anything to these. It's just the raw data. Is that similar, the expectation?
It's very similar. There's still some software that we run to make it look more like that film that we're trying to emulate, give it that film look and feel and texture. So there's still processing, but there's not really any such thing in a camera as no processing. People often forget about things as simple as demosaicing, turning the Bayer into RGB. Processing is a thing.
Technically processing, yeah.
Technically processing, yes. So even those apps and our apps are still processed. We're just processing toward a very different goal now. One of those goals is not to do the sharpening step. In some cases, it will merge fewer frames. So you don't have the kind of merge artifacts that you might run into when you have merging solution that's like bracketing frames and things like that. So yeah, it is in a lot of cases less processing.
So how do you imagine like the type of user that would want to do this? Like that kind of leads back to when I originally mentioned, like a lot of people are gravitating towards older point and shoots because, as you said, it's a different experience, and those are producing a different looking image, often arguably crappier, but that crappier look is what they're after. Is this kind of like an answer to that in some way, like giving them that option in a handheld they have all the time?
I try not to call the user's preferences crappy. As a general rule, I sell fewer phones when I insult the users, but yeah.
Apologize.
It makes the Play Store rating go down. But yeah, we just wanted to give people a wider range. That's it. The range is growing. We want people to have more controls. So even when you choose one of the looks, we give you another 6 or 8 controls within that look. Yeah. So you can tweak contrast, or you can tweak the grain, or you can tweak the warmth, or even the tint. These are all controls you can, and some of them even have custom controls. Like Black Tie, which is a black and white one, has a special control for whether you want to slap no filter over it, a simulated green filter, simulated red filter, so you can get different styles of black and white even. So it just really is about control.
Yeah. It's I guess one of the things that I really liked about the Xiaomi when I played with it was certainly the grip and the way it handled for sure, but also actually it was a lot of the presets and the way that they handled the presets, and they actually looked really nice. And doing these creative looks is not new. It's all the brands have been doing this for a while. So really, I'm eager to play with the phone and see how you guys implement it, because I think the key thing is not that they exist or not. It's how nice are they to use, how simple is it, how creative is it, and so I hope, because there's been a lot where I'm like, I don't really like the way it's implementing, or there's multiple steps I have to go through to make it work properly, and anything that takes away from the convenience factor, I find annoying, especially on a phone. For me, a phone should be a bit more like, if it's going to be a smartphone and do it, yeah, I could shoot raw files and edit them, and I do, but often I want the phone to do a lot of the lifting for me in a very quick, easy, simple way. So I'm going to play with that. But on that same note with the Xiaomi, what I really appreciated was the extra battery life. And so if I can go on a segue here, Isaac, on the Pro model, because that's pretty much what we're going to review as photographers, how has the battery life improved from the last year's model? That's my first question.
Yeah, that's a great
How much
question.
is it improved?
Oh boy, outside the camera, I'm not the biggest expert. I can definitely tell you that inside the camera, it is meaningfully improved. Inside the camera, we're 9% more efficient across, video, photo capture, all these use cases. So camera's certainly better.
Yeah, and we're seeing that a lot. Like phones are trying to squeeze out more efficient processing, reduce battery usage that way. But I mean, the actual battery probably hasn't changed that much. Why is that? I mean, just as an opinion from you, like why are the Chinese smartphones rocking these huge milliamp hours on their batteries that North American phones don't seem to touch? What's the difficulty there?
So once you get into the depth of battery technology, there's a lot of trade-offs. And I can't tell you what trade-offs some other OEMs are using.
Yeah.
But one item is if you push more current into a battery, or if you squeeze more cells into a battery, or you squeeze, more capacity into a battery with less spacing between the battery and the chassis, you can run into long-term reliability issues, and at times even safety issues depending on the conditions. We've probably all seen photos of like phones with swollen batteries. Yes. Like the battery's like old and it's swelled, and now you have to get rid of a lithium-ion battery, and like no one knows how to do that. It's really dangerous. Those are the kind of long-term issues I'm talking about when you shove high current into a battery that isn't like built for it. And we're certainly building for 7 years of support, 7 years of OS updates, 7 years of security updates, 7 years of daily usage, and that means reliability, repairability, safety long-term. And even with that, you can plug in a Pixel phone and you can get almost a full day of usage in very little time, even maintaining the reliability standards up to that 7 years. So I can't tell you what the other OEMs are doing. I can just tell you that we're really heavily optimizing for safety, security, longevity, reliability, and repairability.
Cool.
I am going to loop back to that hardware question I had said. So like the existence of first-party camera-focused hardware pieces seems like something that the brands here in the West don't really have a huge interest in. And I'm curious why you think that is.
Are you talking about camera grips and things like that?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of interest in like the video accessory world where you want like a grip, or you want like microphones. That there's definitely a lot of interest in.
Sure, it's third party though. It's not like you're not making it. You're not making the system.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's a ton of third party support if you want it. I'm asking about first party support. And I'm going to point to the Xiaomi on this because like they had two grip cases available for that camera if you wanted them. One that was slim and less useful, and one that was larger and more useful, or none at all.
Actually, a battery.
And the bigger one had an additional battery in it, which is the thing Chris also mentioned. Like he loved that. He was using that thing all day, and it never even came close to burning out. And I shot video on it all day, and also didn't burn it out. Yeah. So it's like that extra battery is helpful, and the grip was really nice. And we're just curious, like in your I know you can't tell us everything. You can't speak for Google in general, but it is just like a thing we've noticed. It's not a first part. We're not getting it from any of the Western manufacturers.
Yeah. I can at least tell you the way that we think about it, which is if you're already satisfied with the third-party ecosystem, why would we get involved? Like, why would we need to, like, these are our partners. There's a made by Google program, that's the Pixel phone, and there's a made for Pixel program. That's third-party partners building accessories. So if you're already satisfied, if those are great products at a good price at a store near you that you're super satisfied with, why would we want to get involved? If you're talking about accessories in general, I think there's a lot more interest and there's a bigger market on the video side for sure.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to look at, but I don't know, if there's no reason, if everyone's happy, why do anything different? Why fix what ain't broke?
Well, while we're on the topic of hardware there, we talked about the telephoto quite a bit. So that's now a brighter lens on that. It is still the same sensor size, correct? All of the light increase is...
No.
Okay.
Yeah, bigger sensor, bigger pixels. We all know what that leads to. Better relationship between lens sharpness and pixel size. So it's the upgrade I like, which is the sensor size, not the aperture.
And are there any other hardware tweaks that we've seen to the other cameras in the Pro models going forward this year?
Certainly. Yeah, the main camera is a new sensor model. The top level specs are the same, but it's really contributing to our efficiency improvement. That's a big part of it, was the more modern sensor there. And then, the others are the same.
So in terms of the efficiency of that, so it's just reading out faster? Is that the primary difference there? So you can stack more images in a shorter period of time?
The main one is power, actually. You'd be surprised. You think of these sensors as being fairly small, but they're really not. Once you crack the phone open, it's a big piece of silicon, and they draw a lot of power. Some of these sensors might run 200, 300 milliwatts, which, okay, that maybe doesn't mean anything to you. To me, the number is a lot. It's a lot. Like, that's a lot of power.
Okay, good.
So
thank you for explaining, because it didn't mean anything to me at all.
You can see how many spreadsheets of power I pour over every year, but it's a big, big savings.
Google Pixel phones have always, and they were like the first major manufacturer to do it, these high-end photo features that appeal to like dedicated, enthusiastic photographers. Can you explain how you balance incorporating those higher level, maybe in quotes, professional grade features versus making the camera experience as accessible as possible? That feels like a challenge that some of your competitors don't even want to touch. Like the one that I typically use, honestly, they make that. I'm just gonna say it. The iPhone. The iPhone's main interface has been very simplistic forever. For example, so like they don't really seem to want to sacrifice that to give more to those who demand more. They just say, "Oh, we have an app ecosystem for that." So how challenging is it to offer a photo experience that anyone can use while still implementing features that very serious photographers want?
It is extraordinary. Yeah. You see this look on my face because for many, many years, like what we said about Pixel camera, it has been its ability to mix those two things and to be not just a showcase of research and the next generation of computational photography and now models, but at the same time, wrap that in a user interface that covered the hard edges and made things really intentional and easy to use and easy to understand what they were for. So it's something we work the hardest on. right now, I think what we've landed on is sort of like, it's a very clean interface, but then there's like a little button. And if you touch the little button, which is the preferences in the bottom right, you get this big old slider. And it goes left and right, and it's a carousel, and any of those you tap into, it's sliders inside it. And next to the slider, there's like maybe a lock button or a reset button, and like you can combine all of them. So it's been really, really hard. And to be honest with you, I said that there's a bunch of controls within looks as well. Let's just say that there was a long discussion about how many controls we could afford to offer in that carousel for looks. Mm-hmm. It was a long conversation, lots of strong opinions, and we ended up kind of pushing the UX to its limits to make sure that we could give as many controls as people were asking for. So absolutely, we are trying to like strike the finest balance, and it is probably one of the hardest things we do. It's a great question.
Thank you. I'm gonna give credit to Jeremy Gray on my team for that one.
Nice.
He's an excellent question asker.
Good. People always ask about tech. They never ask about user interface, even though that's what we spend a wild amount of time on.
Yeah, I have to imagine. Yeah, because it's easier to talk about tech specs, like because that's stuff we can wrap our heads around. But like actually building the user experience is a lot more challenging than I think most people give it credit for. And so I'm glad that you guys are spending a lot of time on it because it's important. Yeah, and it's sort of that invisible layer.
Yeah, invisible's the goal. Invisible's the goal. Yeah, the minute people start asking me 1,000 questions about UX is probably not a good sign. So,
I have one more question. I don't know if Chris and Jordan do, but my question is the one that I know that will be continually asked until there's either a reason given why it wasn't used. Too. Yeah, or if it's everywhere, and that is LOFIC, the lateral overflow integration capacitor.
Okay. Is this a dirty word, Isaac? Is LOFIC a dirty word in the industry?
Why would it
be? Because it's, I guess the question is, I'm sorry, Jared, I'm taking over here, but I'm just like, we hear LOFIC sensors a lot in the Chinese market. Yeah. We don't seem to see anybody in the North American market incorporating it or even talking about it. So that's why I'm like, is this like, what is Google's approach to this technology and possibly integrating it, benefits, disadvantages? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, we're really excited about what I would call pixel level technology. So sensors have been growing for a long time. Megapixels have been growing for a long time, which actually means the number has grown, but the size has shrunk. Mm-hmm. So the pixels are smaller now than they used to be. And like kind of in between those pixels, people are starting to fit technologies such as LOFIC, which makes each individual pixel or each group of pixels behave in some sort of creative ways. One that we use in Pixel today is called dual exposure, where you can actually read the same value off the pixel. It's the same electrons off the pixel, but you pass the high order bits through a low gain analog circuit and the low order bits through a high gain analog circuit. I have to make sure I don't mess those up, and you actually get really clean shadow noise. Mm-hmm. That's an example of a pixel level technology that's really impactful. So we're really interested in this stuff. I think there's a great future in it. If you ask me any of the dozen different ones that exist, LOFIC is one of the dozen different technologies. I don't know why it got more attention than some of the others. But there's a lot
because I would say it got attention because it was successfully implemented, and it's been now successfully implemented twice. And there
seems to work.
Like huge visual gains from that. Like we were like, oh, that's a big jump. And it was like we noticed it immediately, like especially in the Xiaomi phone when they implemented it, because only one of their sensors had it. And when you switch to one of the other cameras, you're like, oh, well, that's a noticeable change. The LOFIC was way better. And I think that also happened with the Osmo Pocket 4P, right, Jordan? Like when you switched away from the non-LOFIC
night and day difference between the two cameras.
It's such a, like, you're right. There are other ways to take advantage of what sensors can do on a pixel level. But this one just has such a gigantic leap. More so than we've seen in most. That's why we're so excited about it, is because we've basically felt like sensors have plateaued in their ability to do certain things. Either you add more pixels, but then you make the sensor smaller, and so therefore the light gathering capability is worse. So you may have more resolution, but is it better resolution? Typically no. And then on the larger sensor side, like full-size cameras, we're still using in a lot of the mid to entry level cameras a sensor that's now almost a decade old.
Oh, it's
right,
true.
Chris?
Yeah.
That 24 megapixel sensor is as old as your daughter, right, Chris?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think my Fuji's the same way. Yeah, it's an old X-Trans.
Exactly. So like we haven't seen huge leaps in a long time. That sort of stopped. Sony used to do it with almost every generation, and then suddenly just it's kind of just iterative. This is the first one we've seen in such a long time that was like, oh wow. So that's why LOFIC has been such a big topic.
Okay, and I guess I get to see very like clear scientific side by sides of these different pixel technologies, which is a little different from you guys like looking at it when it's like, oh well, this sensor has it and that sensor doesn't, but there's also 17 other differences. So I see these very, very scientific comparisons from the engineering team. So I also see like a step change from the dual exposure. So if there's another step change on the horizon, you can trust that we'll be chasing it. We'll be very interested in it if it exists. Yes.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
I can't tell you what's going on 4 years from now.
But that was probably the best answer you could have given. Like if it exists, we'll go after it.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry about that. Yeah, no doubt. If it exists, we'll want it.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
My last question is, so, the Pixel 11 series, the Fold's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's also an option in the Pro. I believe you guys are going with 256 gigs of storage now, right? As sort of the base level. We all know memory pricing is crazy. What is this going to do to pricing on the phones and, across the whole market? Do you think this is like this is the new normal for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, sadly, kind of everyone in the industry, whether you're building computers or servers or laptops or phones or tablets or like anything.
Cameras.
Anything with a processor in it.
Anything with a processor in it, prices, sadly, for the underlying components are going up. So you got some options, right? You can take less RAM, you can increase the price, you can do both at the same time. And whichever phone you look at, whichever manufacturer you look at, including on Pixel, you'll get different flavors of this sort of problem. Luckily, this is not a surprise. Like this didn't happen a month ago. This is like we've been seeing this happening for a long time now. And so we've had a good chance to get a handle on it. And, we own the operating system. We own the driver stack. We own the silicon. And, we've been able to work on this for about 18 months now. And when I look at our metrics, the 12, I'm going to say this carefully because this is what I really mean. The 12 gig Pro phone is faster and smoother than the 16 gig Pro phone last year. Okay, that's what you can do with 18 months of work is you can actually shave off 4 gigabytes of RAM and still have a better phone. What that means is if you buy the 16 gig this year, it's going to feel real good. If you buy the 12 gig base compared to the 12 gig base last year, it's going to feel really good. Like the longest tail application launches for camera are down up to 30% faster because of some of these memory optimizations. It has to be
difficult to convey to people who just look at big numbers.
It is. And this is what always bothers me about buying phones is like it's not about those little numbers. Those little numbers like 20% of the story. It's really sad. So you guys will get to try the phone. You guys can tell me if you think it's faster and smoother. You guys can hopefully tell your users if you think it's faster and smoother, and we'll get the word out. But when you get 18 months to prep for it, it doesn't become as bad as it sounds on the box.
All right, Isaac, thank you very much. I feel like we grilled you with the hardest questions we've ever sent you.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are the hard questions?
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Isaac, what are the 3 hard questions we didn't ask you today?
What are the 3 hard questions? What's your favorite sauce? I'm sorry. What's your favorite camera look? That's one of them. We've been calling them sauces internally.
I was very confused there for a minute. I was like,
no.
Marinara?
No, it's like the stickiest name of anything we've ever shipped. We were talking about Dijon internally and Buffalo internally because those are our sauce names, but it came out as camera looks. So that's one of the hard ones. I seem to be in the losing crew. I like classic. A lot of people like editorial. Sounds like David likes. What did David like? Did he say?
He didn't tell me which one he liked, but he was sort of focused on the Digicam stuff. So
okay.
Yeah, so you'll have to read his story in order to get that information. So I'll again link to that below. Really enjoyed David's coverage. So it's been nice seeing him on The Verge for a bit.
Cool.
Thanks, Isaac.
Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, thanks to Isaac for sitting with us and answering our questions, which apparently weren't that difficult to him. So we'll come up with harder ones next time, Isaac. That's what you've asked
he's
for.
daring us. He's double dog daring us.
All right. What have you been up to? Well, I don't know if there's anything new here, but, it's a segment. Here you go. Jordan?
Let me tell you, I got 2 entertainment things going on right now. It has been unavailable for a decade, only available through bootlegs. But I've raved about Nirvana the band, the show, the movie. Now the series, a old Vice TV show, which was pulled off the air because it violated endless copyright laws, and Vice went under, is now Neon picked it up. They've cleaned it up, and it is now available on Hulu or Disney Plus if you're in Canada. And it is very funny. It's a little meaner than the movie, which surprised me. It's tonally a little different, but it's hilarious. And yeah, if you want to see guerrilla filmmaking, like the thing these guys are famous for is they'll just go into like public places, a children's hospital, have a fight in a Chinese food restaurant and film it discreetly with real people reacting to it while it's going on in the narrative. It is crazy guerrilla filmmaking. And if you're someone like me who's a real, like, how did they do that kind of person, it's super fun to watch. So I've just started watching those and I'm enjoying it very much. And then when I was camping, I brought my Switch too, and I've been playing Hades for a little while. And Hades rules.
The original? Hades 1?
I'm doing the original. My son's on Hades 2, so he wanted to start with the more advanced one. But yeah, they're great. If you're looking for something you can quickly kill a few minutes and then throw away and then pull out when you got a few minutes, it's an awesome thing to do that. It'll take me a long time to beat it, I'm assuming, but I'm enjoying it.
A game to follow that up with then, Jordan. Have you played Dead Cells?
No.
Dead Cells is another roguelike.
The roguelike, same kind of idea.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying
Chris?
it.
I have not played any video games. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. Don't have the time, but camping was really nice. I mentioned I was reading the Louis L'Amour novels, but also camping. I went out most mornings and fished in Shuswap Lake, caught lots of pike minnow. Still no Girard rainbows because the summer is not the time to get them with a fly rod, but I still had a ton of fun. That was really nice. Water slides, still great. Greatest thing ever. And you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to give a plug to Vernon's. What's it called again? I forget their water slide place.
Splashdown.
Splashdown. Thank you, Jordan. They use ozone.
Rocks.
They use ozone to disinfect their water. Awesome. Because although it's expensive for them and probably through our ticket sales for us, it doesn't like burn your eyes. You're not left smelling like chlorine. It's actually more effective to kill like viruses and stuff. So one of the things, Jordan always says I don't like the pool, and it's because I don't like chlorine. I hate it. I hate like smelling like it. I hate the feeling on my skin and my hair. I don't like it. But the ozone, awesome. Big fan of the ozone. Love it.
I've never heard of that. That's neat. I watched and finished Widow's Bay on Apple TV.
I'm hearing nothing but good things. That's in the queue.
There's one episode, I believe it's episode 4, that is one of my favorite episodes of television in recent history. Like, it was really good. Like, really, really like that. And I've noticed this that Chris and you to a lesser degree, Jordan, mostly Chris, hassles me about not watching movies.
Yes.
I'm really good at watching television, so I'm one of those people. So I did finish this. But I am... tomorrow, so yesterday, on the point of our publishing this, going to go see Odyssey in 70mm here in Portland. So I will sit there for 2.5 hours having to pee the whole time, but I am going to watch that movie.
Is it IMAX 70? Is it tall? Or is it the widescreen?
It's all I've heard is
70mm formats.
Maybe it's the other one, but they are advertising it as in 70mm.
It's going to look great either way.
I will tell you if it was as tall as it was wide, I guess.
Where can I watch it?
You're going to get to hear that projector sound. It's going to go click, 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 click while you're watching it. It's going to be dope.
I hope so.
Where can I watch it cropped 1-to-1 square at 480 by 480? Where can I do that? I don't know. There's got to be a way.
On last week's Feel Good Story of the Week of watching it reproduced on Japanese konbini receipts. That's really
Now, Jaron, technically, Macross Plus is a 4-episode series. So, and you haven't watched it.
I can't. I want to. It's not available. I would have to buy the Blu-ray.
You can find the anime somewhere. Come on, man.
All of those bootleg anime sites that you used to like are gone. They all got taken down.
Come on, man. Oh, dude. Venus Wars.
Moving on to tech support.
Chris, you want tech support. Let him go. Let him set this up.
Wait, no. Lens draft results.
Here. Oh, yeah. Jordan, did you want to go over those?
No, because I don't have them queued up. Once I started losing, I stopped paying attention. But people were saying, where's those lens draft results? So I can find them.
I assumed you... We'll end the show with those then. Why don't you go pull those up? I'm going to
You guys do tech support.
I'm going to fire up a tech support. This is a speak pipe from Kerry West.
Hey guys, my name is Kerry West. I'm a Sony shooter, and when I'm not dodging bags of flaming dog poo for using this brand in 2026, I spend my time in a state of constant anxiety and terror over battery life. You see, I'm what's commonly known as a poor, and I can't bring myself to stockpile the outrageously expensive first-party Z batteries, so I'm curious what, if any, third-party options you guys would recommend. I have a couple Chinese knockoff YX Win batteries, and they work, but their capacity has severely diminished over the years.
Shocker.
I've been looking at the colorful small rig batteries, as I assume it's a brand that's a little more trustworthy and they're affordable. So I'm just wondering if you guys have tried those or if you have any other recommendations, specifically long term. Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, it's very funny. Small rig batteries, I hear good things. Absolutely. Now, Jordan, I know you have your recommendation for batteries you like. I have been using, I hate the names, but this is the Lano, double L, Lano?
Lano, yeah, that's what I was going to recommend.
Yeah, but they make some nice batteries. I'm reading it right here. I've said 100 battery packs, 23 to 2400 milliamps. I mean, look, long term, I have been using them for, I don't know, maybe 8 months now. And I use them all the time in the Sony. They've been great. So I haven't had any issues so far. Handy little chargers, multi-chargers, and things like that too are pretty cool. But Lano, those have been good. They even make a series that has a USB-C port in it. I have one of those. I'd like.
That's what I was going to
to
shout out. I love those.
Yeah. But they're nice. But also, Jordan, haven't you used Wasabi and had okay results or what?
I've had okay results. I've just found the lifespan on them hasn't been fantastic. I really like these Lano batteries. And certainly, I haven't been using the small rigs, which again are USB powered, but I can speak to their big boys. Their V-mount batteries are the best V-mounts, I would say, on the market. It seems like they've got really good battery tech going on. So I would definitely check those out as well.
I like small rigs hard products. I am not quite sold on their soft product yet. And that is to say, like fabrics,
like backpacks,
leathers,
straps, yeah.
quote unquote. Yeah, I'm still testing a couple things. I had a bad experience with something recently, actually. A wrist strap did not even make it through 11 days in Japan. So like,
that's wild.
Yeah, but like their other hard stuff lasts forever, and I really like this like multi-tool from.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, this thing's awesome.
Multi-tool's excellent.
Yeah, it's a fidget spinner too. I'm constantly playing with it. So like that's just a hard product, but the soft.
And their rig stuff is, I mean, that's what they were built on. It is exceptionally good.
It's literally in the name.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Next one is from Dave in Brisbane.
Hi, this is Dave in Brisbane, PetaPixel member, and I've got my Loca shirt ordered this morning, and it should be on its way to me shortly. Just talking about the current version of the Olympus or OM pen camera that was only released in Japan and parts of Europe. I was lucky enough to pick one of those up in Japan a couple of years ago. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision that sparked my love of photography, and I've now been shooting pretty much continuously for the last 2 years. Just wanted to get your thoughts on, in terms of things they could do with a new pen camera, what about optimizing a sensor for low-light performance, a little bit like the Sony A7S series, with the potential of being a bit more street-focused, low-light, sort of overcoming some of the limitations of Micro Four Thirds in low-light. Just wanted to get your opinions on whether that was potentially a useful way for them to go. Thanks very much. Bye.
That would require R&D
innovation,
sensor development costs, would it not?
Yeah, well, I mean, the GH5S was a low-light optimized sensor. It was a lower resolution, 12 megapixels compared to the usual 20. And it did make a moderate improvement, but not nearly enough to justify for a lot of people, I think, outside of videographers.
Thanks for ordering the Loca shirt, Dave. We appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, if OM System comes out with a pen camera, which they'd be wise to do so. I mean, everybody's been asking for it, right? I mean, I think it's
viewfinders.
Yeah, like I just hope it has a viewfinder. I'm like, the worries that I have is that they're going to come out with a camera and they're not going to put a viewfinder on it because they're going to say that like young photographers don't care about EVFs, and I think that's
and the last pen didn't have one, so why would they put one now?
Yeah, so I really want it to have a viewfinder. That would be a huge plus for me. Above that, I'm not expecting much because like history shows that, and this isn't just OM system. I mean, honestly, it's Micro Four Thirds in general, right? We haven't seen any innovation. People are clamoring for more megapixels, which I think is appropriate given that we haven't seen a change there either in a long time. So my guess is it's going to have the same 20 megapixel sensor that we've seen in a lot of other cameras. Like, I hope that they make sort of an OM3, but looks like a Pen F kind of thing, but I don't know. I'm skeptical, but regardless, anything that comes out that's like a small, sexy, street-styled camera, I think is a good move, and I just hope it has an EVF, man. That's all I want.
All right. Got another one here. This is another Dave, but this one's a David. Let me see if I can pull him up. Ooh, David.
Hi, bug.
Another speak pipe. Let me click this play button. This is a minute long, minute and a half.
Hi, gentlemen. David Weiberg here, currently in the Czech Republic. This might be something that you've discussed a million times before, but I haven't heard it recently. I'm curious how others feel about where the line is between what can be considered a photograph and what is more CGI or AI. My feeling is that a photograph is the capture of a moment in time and space by a camera. So in that way, it is a documenting reality at that time and space. On the other end of the spectrum is CGI or AI, which is entirely created or generated image that is more of a fantasy. In between is somewhat murky, I think. I think minor changes can be made to brightness, contrast, saturation, maybe even minor coloring that can help the image look even more like the eyes would see it in the real world and still be called a photograph. But I feel, for example, that if an additional light source is added in post-processing or changes are made to individual objects in the photo, it is no longer really a photograph. It is certainly still art and can be even more beautiful, but we are moving along that spectrum toward fantasy. Perhaps these images between photographs and AI could be called something like photographic art or digitally enhanced photography. What do you feel is the line for enhancing an image before it can no longer really be called a photograph?
I feel like this is definitely a Chris question.
Is it? I think it's an everybody question, to be honest. I mean, Jaron, you're shooting a lot of analog. A lot of people are going to say, well, analog is popular not only because it's fun, it is fun and it's cool, but also because it's largely untouched, right? I mean, that's the beauty of it, is there's this feeling like, oh, I've captured photons of light in silver gelatin, which is absolutely magical. I could then print that, enlarge it, and I've retained that. But, I've always kind of been of this mindset that first off, the instant that you point a camera at reality, you're already abstracting it because you as the photographer are deciding what to leave in the frame and what to take out of the frame. I mean, that's the whole point, right? You're choosing the timing, you're choosing the light that you're in, you're choosing when to fire, you're choosing what to show, what not to show. It's already an artistic abstraction, and that has always been photography. And on top of that, in the darkroom, we did lots of magic. This is an old discussion. We did all sorts of trickery. You could take people out of the frame, you could change exposure, you could delete things you didn't want. It was really quite, it's never been like a pure image, I guess. Purity has never really been the case, and I don't think we can argue for purity. At the same time, analog photos can be digitally, they're scanned, they're digitized, and then you could do all the digital work. When it comes to a digital camera, obviously we're still doing all of that digital work. And I totally get the concept that AI is difficult now, and it's a conversation we have to have. So I appreciate you, David, for bringing up the conversation. It's an important one to have. I'm sort of the mindset that the magical part of photography is capturing those photons of light on whatever we choose to capture it on. And then from there, it's an art form, and it's up to the expression of the particular artist how they want to express that. And I don't use AI generation, I guess, but I don't really use generative fill. But at the same time, it would be hypocritical for me to be like, oh, well, using generative fill is incorrect, but doing generative erasing is, I mean, it's still generative fill. So I do use generative fill. I erase things that I don't like sometimes in the frame and stuff. And yeah, man, I don't know. If you want to create another label for it, you can. I just don't know if that would be helpful. I think photography, you capture an image, you do what you want artistically to it. It is capturing those photons of light and then doing what you want to do with them, and like it or not, that's here to stay.
I guess you mentioned it on the analog thing, and I think the reason I've resonated so much, one of the reasons I've resonated so much with analog is I never really did very much editing to begin with, like when I was shooting digital. Like I would do exposure adjustments, and then I would use the healing brush or clone stamp to remove like dust or chunks of things that were clearly just like artifacts that weren't essential to an image. But I don't remove like full people. I don't remove like full birds that are in the sky or anything. I just leave those things, and I always have. I just never felt like, I think what it really was is I never felt like learning digital editing enough to get so good at it that I could get away with it. And a lot of my pictures, you'll see too, there's not heavy color casting or image. Like even when I was shooting in digital, I never did any of that. I didn't stylize my images beyond what the camera typically captures. So when I moved over to film, very little about my post-processing actually changed because I'm just effectively relying on whatever this film captured. And then I'll go in there and I'll remove like chunks of stuff or hairs or stuff that happened during the scan, like if there's dust on there or whatever, I'll get rid of that, but not anything major. So I'm a bad one to ask about this because I don't use any of those tools, and I never have anyway because I've never decided to get good at it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, when I'm editing, the photos that we put on the episodes, I don't heavily edit them. Partly because I don't want to, but also partly because like I am trying to show the product in a way that I think a lot of people would use it and edit it, not doing heavily stylized work. But at the same time, I feel as an artist, you do what you feel you need to do to get to the result that you want. And so every time I look at an image, I don't just apply a preset. I look at each image. I'm like, okay, what's my intention for this? What do I want to do with this? And sometimes I will edit more heavily than others. But I think the key thing to remember is if you're doing AI generation or CGI, and I'm not slighting that. I mean, CGI is a totally cool art form unto its own. You're at a desk on a computer doing that, right? The beauty of photography has and always will be that you as an individual are out in the world experiencing things and then interpreting them and then capturing them and sharing them. That's the whole beauty of it. So it's about why I like to do photographs is not to get the end result as much as to be out on my own in a new city, wandering the streets, hunting for light. That's the experience I find fun, or hopefully capturing something dynamic that's happening in the world, or seeing something beautiful and showing my interpretation of it. And that's the magic of it. I think people who do AI-generated photographs, like we're seeing in a lot of contests and stuff, they're cheating themselves out of the actual experience, right? That's the sad part. So for me, photography has always been the actual act of being out in the world. And then what you do after that doesn't matter, in my opinion. It's that you've had that experience that mattered and that you were there at that moment that mattered. That you can't really cheat. Can't cheat it. Can't fake it. Well, you can fake it. but you can't cheat it. You cheat yourself if you do it.
Anything to add, Jordan?
No, I mean, Chris, through it all, eventually got to it's capturing photons. If you capture light and you reproduce that light, then I believe that is photography. I mean, you'll say we don't edit things, but like the most obvious edit is black and white. We don't see the world in black and white, but nobody's going to give you a hard time about that. So if you capture light and reproduce it, even if you need to tweak the light, tweak the color, anything like that, if it's a reproduction of something that happened, I think that is photography. And as soon as you're just stealing from a bunch of other existing pictures to generate a new picture, that's not photography. If you're generating an image on a computer that's just running an algorithm to generate it, then like we do with CGI, then that's also not photography. I think it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got time for one more, and this one is a real tech support question, like really techie. So I have absolutely no say in this one, but here we go. This is from Sam on SpeakPipe.
Hey guys, big fan of the podcast. I've just got a really quick one specific about lens compression across different sensors. Essentially, whether or not your lens compression comes from your distance to the subject or if it comes from your apparent distance from the subject. So for an example, let's say I'm standing 10 meters away from a subject, I'm shooting with a Z5 II, so a full frame, on a 75 millimeter lens. I take my photo. I then swap out into like a Z52, so a APS-C crop. I swap to a 50 millimeter lens, so I'm now shooting the same equivalent focal length as I was on the full frame. I step back an extra, whatever the maths would be, 5 meters. I don't know the number there. So I'm now 15 meters away from my subject. I take the same photo, but I take it with the same framing despite the fact that I'm further back. So in that example, do I have the same quote-unquote lens compression, i.e. the background is the same distance back, as it would be on both examples, because I have the same apparent distance because of the framing? Or do I have different lens compression because I have actually repositioned myself and I am actively further back from the project? So in a real sense, I am further back. Thank you for the clarification. Internet's full of lies on this and I can work it out myself.
So, Sam, like your initial example is maybe a little bit flawed because you do step back in your example, but you don't need to. I mean, first off, if you're shooting a full frame 75 millimeter, then you switch to an APS-C with a 50 millimeter lens and get an equivalent focal length, you're going to get the same frame without moving, okay? But to answer your broader question, it really has to do with your distance to the subject. That's what changes this sort of the perception of compression and distance. Like if I was 10 meters away from a subject and I shot that with a portrait lens and then I switched to a wide angle lens and shot from that same distance and cropped the frame in to the same as the portrait lens, you get the same look of compression. So It's really your relationship to the subject, the distance, that makes that a difference. But I know it's very confusing. And so where the dynamic fun can be had is as you move closer to a subject or further away, that dramatic change of relationship between the subject and the background. Like if you use a wide angle lens and you step up really close to a subject, the background is going to look very far away, way off in the background. And that's a very different look than getting further back from them and using a telephoto lens and zooming in. But it's because of the distance that you've changed that has really created that magic. That's the key thing to remember. The lenses themselves are really changing the field of view, but the compression comes from that relationship between the subject and you and your camera.
Yeah,
and its relationship to obviously things in the background as well, right? I mean, you put a subject against a wall, you're going to get very different compression than if you pull them away from the wall. Like, it's more dynamic. The camera, not as much.
I think what really muddies the water here and confuses people is depth of field. If you shoot with a wide angle and crop the hell out of that, you're going to have expansive depth of field, where if you use a telephoto lens with the same framing, you're going to have a very different relationship between the subject and the background there. But when we're talking about compression, we're referring to how big the subjects in front or behind are, and that absolutely is just dependent on distance.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Sam, for the question, and thank you to Chris and Jordan for being very intelligent and explaining it.
Sometimes.
Feel-good story of the week time to end the show. Nikon released an update for a camera it discontinued, over a year ago, as well as so that was the Nikon D6. It also released a firmware update for the Nikon D780. Both of these cameras came out in 2020. And interestingly, the Nikon D780's last update came basically exactly a year prior to this on August 5th, 2025. So will they release another firmware update next year on August 5th, 2027? Who knows? But it is kind of cute that Nikon is still updating and supporting these cameras beyond the basic, supporting, quote unquote. They still exist and you can get them fixed or whatever. They're still actively supporting the software so much longer than they needed to.
Good for them. It largely, just for people curious, fixes like a minor underexposure that they would often have with AFD lenses, older lenses, and like a flash high-speed sync, fixing the shutter speed at 2/50th.
Yeah, but it's still nice.
I mean, Nikon, I've said it's them and Panasonic running for the best firmware company, and this definitely adds to it. I want to throw something out. I think it would be fun to review the D6. It's the only major professional camera we haven't reviewed in the period that we've been reviewing these. It's a weird one. No one bought one. It came out when the mirrorless boom had already started. I think it would be super fun to take that thing for a spin, because obviously Nikon wasn't sending out samples for the press to review it. They're just like, no, we're just going to try and forget about this DSLR thing. Look over here at the Z. Everybody.
I will only accept this if Chris reviews it as if it is brand new. Like, he can't go. The episode
would be amazing.
He has to go into it with just as if this is a camera he received that is being on sale today.
They're not cheap though, even used. I don't think. Even the fact
we can acquire one.
Someone could get us one.
Yeah, we'll get one for you, Chris. How about that?
I think that'd be a fun video.
Okay, deal. I'll put it on the board. All right, that's going to do it for the show this week. I hope you enjoyed. We'll be back next week, publishing, it looks like on the same, maybe a day later than usual. But we are publishing a day later than usual next week, so expect the podcast again on Thursday next week. Actually, expect the podcast on Thursday for the next couple of weeks before we revert back to Wednesday in early September. So there you go. Thanks for joining us. Those of you who are PetaPixel members, thanks again for being one. As Jordan says, you are the best. And with that,
simply the best.
Catch you next time.
All right, and it is time for the great reveal that we almost forgot about. It is time to let you know who you chose as the winner of the lens draft. If you haven't listened to this podcast, it's a super fun one. You should go back and check it out, where we all picked our team of some of the greatest lenses throughout history. Gentlemen, this was a roller coaster ride, because when we first finished the episode and the votes started coming in, Chelsea had a commanding lead with me in second place. And I said, let's go to socials and that'll really turn the tide in my favor. I was wrong, because Chris also went to socials, and it turns out people like Chris quite a bit, because our final results, everyone, in first place with 36% of the vote is Chris Nichols.
What?
What a come from behind upset win.
Jordan, when you were in second place, what was your percentage at that time? Do you remember?
Oh, I think I was, Chelsea was like 45. I was like 28. We were all way behind. So this was definitely a surge, but she still came out strong with 27.3% of the vote, followed by Jordan, who should have stayed off social media, not inspired Chris to do the same, with a paltry 19.05% of the vote.
A near 10% collapse from when you were like.
It was rough, man. Chris just took all that and surged
They
hard.
were allowed to vote. They were allowed to vote for whoever they wanted. It's not like my followers were like, well, we have to vote for Chris. They looked at the choices.
Of course, they
looked at the choices. They made a informed decision, and I think I had a really good team. I think you did too. I had a really good team.
This time, unlike the camera draft, I feel like we all had really solid teams, as opposed to camera draft, where Jaren's was not so good, probably.
Yeah, and my showing here has absolutely no reflection on the quality of my teams. That'll show me for actually trying to take these seriously. I should just pick trash teams every time. I get the same, I get the same support regardless.
With a slightly stronger team than Jaren is Jeremy with 10.16% of the vote. And then in last place, we do have Jaren with 6.98.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's round it up. 7%.
I'm going to go ahead and just always pick a bad team, because, it doesn't matter if I pick a good one. I'm still going to lose.
You could be the underdog story.
Sure.
It'll be like The Replacements or every other sports movie ever made.
By the way, we definitely did forget to do this. We all logged off and went our separate ways. So that's why you're gifted this after our not the credits roll, but we.
It's a fun PS.
Yeah.
There you go. I love doing the drafts. Let us know in the comments below what our next draft should be. These are fun.
Now it's time for Buy for Real.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Buy for Real.